It's the VMX Show, Season 6! Oh, for Christ's sake.
Hey now, everybody. Welcome to the VMX Show. This is Necro VMX, and, yeah. This is Season 6, Episode 8. Before I get to the meat of the show, let's have a little appetizer. I'll let you know that I did appear on Nerdgasm.com's G3. That's Geeks, Gaming, and Gadgets this week. It was the... Let's see, what date was that? The August 9th episode, I believe? Let me look at that. Yeah, August 9th episode, so you can check that out at nerdgasm.com, or you can go to blogtalkradio.com/nerdgasm. That's with a 3 instead of the E and a Z instead of the S. Kind of an impromptu, it wasn't planned, but I called into their show and we talked about video game urban legends. So those of you who like the previous series that I had, Urban Legends of Video Gaming, you might want to go check that out. As a matter of fact, if I remember to, I might not remember to, but if I remember to, I'll put a link to it in the actual description of this video. So there you go. So I don't have a whole lot to talk about this week. I was going to have a guest, but the guy flaked out, as usual. That happens. I don't have a whole lot of news, but I do have a whole lot of questions and comments. So let's get to those. Look at all these questions and comments. Oh my, some of them are like a paragraph long. That's okay, I don't mind. Alright, let's see. The first one is from The Castle Boss. It says, "Hey Necro, on the topic of this week's guest interview, FPS games, have you played the latest Medal of Honor? I think it was released last year, maybe late 2010. The single-player campaign, although quite short, had the most interesting story I've ever played in a modern military shooter." That's interesting. More so than COD 4 then, huh? I haven't played it. I haven't had the chance to play it. I know I can get it really, really cheap because I've seen it for like $5. Eventually I'll get my hands on that one. I do like the Medal of Honor series. Let's see. He has more to say. "The gameplay was also fluid with intense gunfights, and I would definitely recommend it to any FPS fan. You could probably find it pretty cheap now, too. Give it a shot." Great episode, by the way, Necro. Yeah, I've seen it very, very, extremely cheap, like mind-bendingly cheap. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going over to GameStop's website right now to see how much it is there, because, like I said, I have seen it really, really, like, insanely cheap. It's Medal of Honor Warfighter, Frontline, Medal of Honor for Xbox 360, $10 for new. So, you know, that just shows you, imagine how much it is to get it used, you know what I mean? So there you go. I'm going to move along here. Oh, he also says, great episode, by the way, Negro. Well, thank you very much. Savage Broadcast says, "Apologies for removing my earlier comment, Negro." So that was you. Yeah, don't do that. Just add to it. Good stuff, Negro. I'll be away for a while, so I hope you don't mind if I splurge a little. Actually, he didn't say splurge. He said splooge. I hate to point that out, but he did say splooge. There's no R in there, so he's going to splooge. So I hope you don't mind if I splooge a little with my questions. Now, I don't mind if you ask me a bunch of questions, but I really don't want you splooging on the show. But let's see. He has 3 questions. Let's see. Number 1, have you ever thought of doing a feature on films by a favorite comedian, i.e. the 10 Days of Robin Williams or 28 Days of Eddie Murphy, etc.? I have thought about not exactly that, but things very similar to that. And although the next 2 February features are already in stone, and October will always be horror movies, but you know, like I'm doing, I did 10 Days of Dracula, I did 10 Days of Frankenstein, I did 10 Days of the Dead, and the next one will be another theme like that. I wouldn't mind doing something like 10 Days of Christopher Lee, or like a specific actor or director or whatever. So I have thought of that, but nothing planned for the near future right now. Question number 2, what villains would you like to see in the next Batman film series? I think the Riddler deserves another shot. Although we all like Jim Carrey, that wasn't really like what the Riddler was supposed to be. He was really way too kooky and everything. And if you've played the Arkham games, Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City, then the Riddler in that is a little bit more like what I'd expect. Other than the Riddler, I wouldn't mind seeing some villains that hadn't been done yet, like maybe Black Mask or Killer Croc or something. So, we'll see how... I don't know what kind of tone they're going for, since the next Batman film series is going to be kind of a tie-in to an eventual Justice League movie. I would assume that they would want to do something less gritty and realistic and more fun and flighty, so I could see like a Clayface or a Killer Croc or something like that being in there, something a little bit more goofy. And number 3, do you still watch animated films? If so, do you prefer CG or 2D cell animation? Well, I haven't seen an animated film in quite some time, but it's not because I'm avoiding them, it's just because there haven't been any that interested me in a while. It's not that I'm against watching an animated film. I think the last animated film that I went to see, and this is quite a few years ago, was actually the Simpsons movie, which I loved, by the way. As for 2D cell animation or CG, I will always prefer the 2D cell animation, although I have to say the CG is getting to the point where it's starting to look really good, which is kind of weird because when, when Final Fantasy The Spirits Within came out, and that was in the late 90s, that looked amazing, and it's like nothing since then has come close to that in terms of an all CGI movie. But we're starting to get back there. All right, I'm going to move on. Oh, he has a 4th question. Have you played the Professor Layton series? No, I have not. I have no interest in it whatsoever. Sorry to say. Okay, so let's see. Next comment or question is from John Stanu, 1985. You know what? I'm not even going to read this guy. This guy, he just keeps posting nonsense. So I'm just gonna move on. I mean, it seems like he only shows up to be a dick, so I'm not gonna give him the time of day. Hans Fartknocker has 2 questions for me. He says, "What is your favorite horror film, and what genre of games would you say you're the best at?" Okay, favorite horror film. That's a toughie, because I could sit there and list horror movies that I love until the cows come home, and I don't have any fucking cows, so that would take a while. But to pick just one as my absolute favorite, I'm thinking here, and wow, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I guess I don't know. Like Bram Stoker's Dracula was a huge one. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's not like 100% horror movie, but it does have a lot of horror elements. So I would say that one. And number 2, what genre of games did you say are the best? RPGs, probably. I'm very good at RPGs. After that, it would probably be FPS, but RPGs is number 1. Let's see, moving on. UNSC Archer says, how do you feel about those burgers with eggs on top of them? Well, I don't think I've ever had an egg on a burger, but I would try it because I like burgers. I like eggs. Why not? It sounds good. I would eat that. That's it. I haven't never had one, but you're kind of making me want one now. So there you go. WWE QQA says, my first question is, I got Skyrim, and it is great. Necro VMX, can you give me any tips on it, and what is the best items to have in it? I mean, like weapons and apparel, potions. And second question is, where is your wife, Julie? She has not been doing videos with you anymore. Well, she's not my wife, first off. At least not yet. She's my girlfriend. We've been dating for 4 years, so I know a lot of people are like, well, get a move on already. But we're not in any particular hurry. We're fine the way we are right now. She is kind of a workaholic, so we don't get to spend a whole lot of time together. And when we do spend time together, we try to make it quality time and not doing videos. And we both enjoy doing videos, but there are issues with that, in terms of just not having the time to do it all the time. So, and almost every time we talk, I say, people really do want to see videos with me and you. And she says, yeah, I know we should do that, but then, it's hard to find the time. We try and do it. Whenever we can, we do it, To answer your first question, Skyrim, I can't give you any tips on what the best items to have is because it all depends on the type of character you want to play. If you want to play, like a melee, in-your-face, barbarian lord kind of guy, or if you want to play like a sneaky, stealthy character, if you want to play a mage, it's different. I would just say experiment and try everything and then just find what you like and stick with it, because Skyrim is very... The whole series, Elder Scrolls, is very open to you using anything, but Skyrim in particular, they really got it right, because anything you do is going to be valid. Any kind of character that you decide to play as is going to be a good character if you play it well. It's not like in, because I always like to play an archer, and just to go through the last 3 games. Well, actually, you know what? I'll tell you a thing. They finally got the archery right in Skyrim. It was very, very overpowered in Morrowind, and then it was very, very underpowered in Oblivion. But I had a joke about the Elder Scrolls series in general and how it related to you choosing a character who fires arrows. And I said, okay, so here is the scenario. You're in a dungeon, and you come across an enemy, a human enemy, who is looking away from you and doesn't realize you're there. You aim an arrow at his head and fire. What happens? Well, in the first game, Arena, what happens is the arrow flies for about 5 feet and then falls to the ground, and you completely miss. And then the guy attacks you, and you have to switch to a sword and kill him. In Daggerfall, the second game, the game crashes. In Morrowind, your skill is not high enough, so even though it looks like the arrow hit his head, it missed. In Oblivion, you hit him and you do damage, but then he starts attacking you, and you have to fire about 60 more arrows into him to kill him. In Skyrim, he dies. So there you go. My point is that they really got the balance really well in that game, and pretty much any kind of character you play as is going to be a good one, as long as you play well. Let's see, moving on. Future Gamer 24 says, what are your greatest fears? Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. I mean, I have a question for you, Future Gamer 24. What makes you think that I would tell you my greatest fears? Let's move along. Uber McFailsaw says, I would recommend Bob Burden's work as long as you don't expect anything very serious. I don't know why what are you talking about, man? I'm going to move on here. Multi-Shadow Kid says, can you name some underrated games? Sure I can. I'm not gonna, but I can. What kind of question is that? Can you name some underrated games? God. Moving on here. Let's see. Fishman123451 says, hello, Necro. If you could bring back any show, what would you bring back? I just answered this last week. The show that you are commenting on, the one that you came to and left that question on, I answered that. So, he says something else. My other question is, if you erase something from the internet, what would you erase? Okay. He also says he beat all gillied up on Veteran without being shot. What the hell is he talking about? What is all gillied up? I'm going to actually have to Google this because now I'm curious. What would I remove from the internet, huh? Oh, is it? It's one of the... Oh, okay, it's one of the missions in Call of Duty 4. I always forget what they're called, but I'm trying to see which one it is. Oh, that's the first part of the Chernobyl level. No, that's easy to do without being shot. It's the second part with the Ferris wheel that's fucking impossible. That's very difficult. Or is that the whole... Or is that... once you get to that whole part with the Ferris wheel, there's no way you beat it without getting shot on Veteran. You're a liar. But if you're talking about the first part, the stealth part, very easy. What would I remove? You know what? I would remove internet predators. Just get rid of them completely. Make it a safer place for everybody. Alright, moving on. I wish you people would not respond to each other. Seriously. Don't do that. Let's see. So, okay, here we go. Zombie Ryushu says, it has been discovered that the Retron 3 is Sega Master System compatible. What do I care? What the fuck is the Retron 3? What are you talking about? Alright, now another thing to Google. Like, can we post things that are relevant? Oh, that's that thing that posts, like, it plays like NES, Super NES, Genesis. Alright, so what? On a different topic, I hope it's a relevant topic, and this goes to your discussion of what we watched as kids. I watched Nick Arcade. I thought it was incredible. But I rewatched all of them on YouTube, and I discovered that none of the arcade games are arcade games. They are all console games. Genesis, NES, Super NES, TurboGrafx, Neo Geo. The fake games that you see made for the show are programmed for the Amiga 500. Well, I did know that they were using all console games, because they were all pretty familiar games, and I do remember that show. I did watch that. As for the original games, I didn't know that they were programmed for the Amiga 500. It's interesting. Alright, moving along here. Red Devil Dazzy 2007 says, great episode. Oh, so he says, good episode, Nick. Nice job as always. I like the guest section about first-person shooters. Well, thank you. Nensan Dubois says, who is funnier, Bob Odenkirk or David Cross? Okay. I don't have to, more things to Google. Who the hell is Bob Odenkirk? Okay, apparently he's a writer on Saturday Night Live. Let's see. I have no idea really who this guy is. I don't really watch Saturday Night Live, so he was in a few episodes of Tenacious D, and yeah, I gotta say, I don't know why you're asking me this. I have no idea who this guy is really. But let's see. The other guy, David Cross. That sounds vaguely familiar to me, so I'm gonna look that one up as well. David Cross. Oh, he's on Mr. Show and all that. Now, you see, I don't know. Neither, okay? I don't care about either of them. I don't know why you're asking me. That's weird. I'm just going to move along here. Let's see. He also left another comment. Let's see. What do you think of subliminal messages in advertisements, and especially the more malevolent species designed to corrupt children shown in cartoons? What? Would you even go so far as to say that in Toy Story 3, the cartoon Arthur and the Simpsons, are some sightings and mentionings of the all-seeing eye and other cult... What the fuck are you talking about? I'm gonna move on. I can't even give this guy the time of day. Honestly, I'm so sick of questions like that. Like, what? Give me something relevant here. Weird, man. All-seeing eye, conspiracy theories. This stuff doesn't interest me. I don't know why you want me to talk about this stuff. Okay, so let's see. Let's move along here. Where was I? The Moogle Master. What do you think of the movie Bolt? Because I had a discussion with Almighty Sand about it, and he said it was good, but that it's not his favorite Disney film. Bolt is maybe my all-time favorite film. It should have won Best Picture over The Dark Knight and Syriana. I've never seen Bolt. I have no interest in it. He has more to say. I wish I also bought the Bolt plushies when you could still buy them in the stores, like the 23-in-1. Plus, it has one of my all-time favorite songs, Barking at the Moon. Hell, I even like the Miley Cyrus song. You sure you don't mean Bark at the Moon? Is that an Ozzy song? I'm going to move along. I've never seen Bolt. I have no interest in it. Just going to move along. Dimebag Zombie. He has some interesting choices of questions here. He says, Bill and Ted versus Wayne and Garth versus Jay and Silent Bob versus Beavis and Butthead. How would you see the fight going, and who do you think would win? Well, I think Jay and Silent Bob would win that because as drug dealers, they've probably had to get into numerous fights. Bill and Ted are kind of wimpy. Wayne and Garth are kind of cowards. Beavis and Butthead are wimpy cowards. So, it would be funny, but yeah, I think Jay and Silent Bob would come out on top. Plus, since Silent Bob, since he doesn't talk, he's like gonna just like bust out in like a sudden, badass mode all of a sudden. Here's another one with the same general idea: Forrest Gump versus Lenny of Mice and Men versus Carl from Sling Blade. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's I don't want to even touch that one with a 10-foot pole, but I think Carl would win if you pushed him, if you got him angry. By the way, I think they'd be 3 epic musketeers. My thanks for questions, answers in the past. It's awesome that you pay attention to your subscribers. Well, thank you. I'm going to move on. This is an interesting one. Mr. Lover of Ganja said, what is the dumbest way somebody tried to insult you? What was their reasoning? Somebody called me an evil America-hating commie because I said they were going a little overboard when they compared Obama to Hitler. Wow, okay. Well, as far as I know, I don't like Obama, but I don't think he's... tried to round up the Jews or anything like that. So I think it's a bit... I hate when people compare everything to Hitler because it just cheapens World War II and the Holocaust and everything, which is kind of sad. The dumbest way somebody tried to... You know what? If you want to see the dumbest way that somebody tried to insult me, just go to my channel and go to any video that has anything to do with wrestling and look at the comments there. And you'll see what I mean. Moving along. Mr. Undercover Jesus says, I hadn't heard of the controversy surrounding the AVGN movie either. I'm glad you brought this up. Upon looking it up, it seems to have to do with James allegedly pocketing extra donations rather than putting them into the film. Do you think this is true, or rather he poured the extra funds into making the film better or bigger? Personally, I think it's the latter, based on vlogs of him where he even talks about what he's been able to do with the extra money, crew, effects, etc. And the picture of him with a military-grade APC. Okay, I have looked into this since last week, and I've discovered that this is based on one person who definitely is not any kind of fan of Cinemassacre or James Rolfe at all. He's claiming that James Rolfe is, profiting off of the donations because the Indiegogo page for the AVGN movie showed $400,000 worth of donations, and the IMDb page for Angry Video Game Nerd, the movie, showed a budget of around $185,000. So he's saying that, what happened to the extra $215,000? Obviously, James must have kept it. Now, of course, you're making a lot of assumptions there. But the thing is, IMDb is not an official source. It's a collection of information that people put on there, kind of similar to Wikipedia. Nobody really knows what the budget of the AVGN movie is, and especially considering that the movie is still in production. So there hasn't been any official release of what the actual budget was, as opposed to the 400,000 Indiegogo page and whatever else James himself put into it. So really, it's based on a false assumption, which is based on information that really could have come from anywhere and has no basis in actual solid fact. So he's just trying to get people all worked up about it because he's basically got a huge hate boner for James Rolfe. Josie Grigg says, sometimes I wonder what is happening on Jack Nicholson's head. On his head or in his... He said on his head. I don't think much is happening on his head because he is kind of bald. Moving along here. Okay, requests don't go on the VMX show. Moving along. Almighty Santa says, just a quick question, do you read fantasy novels? Yes, I do. Insert profile name now says, hey Necro, I was wondering what you thought of American pop music today compared to other regions such as K-pop or J-pop. Okay, well, I've heard the K-pop, I've heard the J-pop, and I have to say, I'm not a big fan of pop music in general, but I have to say the American pop music is so superior. It's not even close. The Japanese pop music is sickening. It's sickening. It's like listening to, like, somebody put sugar. They took like 10 pounds of sugar and they turned it into a song. It's disgusting. And the K-pop is, all the accusations that are made against American pop music, that it's fake and that it's vapid and that it's overproduced and that it uses auto-tune and that it's just basically manufactured instead and there's no feeling behind it. Take that times 1,000 and you have the Korean pop music. So there you go. As a matter of fact, I believe that in the demilitarized zone between North Korea and South Korea, the South Koreans are actually blasting K-pop music across the demilitarized zone towards North Korea to piss them off. They're doing it to aggravate them. So what does that tell you? I mean, that's some pretty bad music. Moving along, I only have a few left here. Dave Cornfan says, hey Necro, what are your thoughts on the Elder Scrolls MMO? Personally, I'm not a fan of MMOs, though I've heard the map in this game is going to span all of Tamriel, so I wouldn't mind going through that map. It would be cool to do. I'm not interested. I don't play MMOs. It's not developed by Bethesda Softworks. It doesn't continue the story. It's actually a prequel to the entirety of the Elder Scrolls series, and as interesting as it would be to explore, areas of Tamriel that you either haven't been to or haven't been to since Arena, it's just not that interesting to me. I'm gonna wait for Elder Scrolls 6 instead, the next Bethesda game. I believe ZeniMax Studios is developing Elder Scrolls Online, and I love the whole really ill-conceived and badly thought out marketing strategy. The logo that they have where it says from Morrowind to Skyrim and everything in between, and I'm like, Morrowind borders Skyrim. There's nothing in between them. Like, if they would have said from Somerset Island to Morrowind and everything in between, that would have been better. Or if they would have said from High Rock to Black Marsh and everything in between. But I don't know. That was just like a really, really bad marketing term there. Nettlebach says, don't know if you discussed this yet, but if not, what do you think about Greg Pabich's attempt to make a working NES carts of Cheetahman 2? I think that's a total dick move. I don't think anybody really cares. I mean, do we really want to play this shitty game? You know, I mean, you could play it, you just can only play the first, 4 levels or something, and then you can't access the last 2 levels unless there's a glitch that lets it start on the last 2 levels. So, why don't they do this with a good game? And the fact that this is getting all this attention on Kickstarter, there are so many different projects on Kickstarter that languish and don't get the attention they deserve that could be great, new, original, emphasis on original ideas, instead of just taking some shitty game that was so bad that it wasn't even released and making a working copy of it to sell to dumbasses who want to play it because they saw it, on AVGN or whatever. Fuck that. Finally, Squizgar Own says, what video game would you want to experience in real life? I don't think I would want to experience any video games in real life because, well, that would be hell of a dangerous. Hell of a dangerous. I mean, yeah, it's not a good thing. I don't think I'd want to experience any video games in real. The whole purpose of video games is that they're not real life, that they're escapist fun. Once you make it real life, they're not fun anymore. So, that's all I have to say about that. That's the questions and comments now. Let's see, we're going to get into the news. I don't have a whole lot to talk about. This is going to be a shorter show. But I do have some interesting things here. Microsoft has officially, and this is kind of a little overdue, but they have officially confirmed the next Xbox console. Now, we don't have a name for it. But they've been only referring to it as the new Xbox. And this was mentioned by Microsoft's general manager, Brian Hall, who mentioned it when he was discussing Microsoft Outlook. Here is his quote. He said, "We've had Hotmail and operated Hotmail for about 16 years. We obviously have Exchange and Outlook that people use at work. We just decided it is a time to do something new and bring the best from each of those and put them all together and release it right in time for the new wave of products that we could have coming out with Windows 8 and the new version of Office and the new Windows Phone and the new Xbox." So, they're not really announcing much there, but it is the first official acknowledgement from Microsoft that there will be another Xbox. Of course, we've known that for quite some time, but everything up until now has been rumors, leaks, conjecture, speculation, and whatnot. Now, there has been some issues with Silent Hill HD Collection, apparently. Both the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions had issues. I believe the PlayStation 3 issue is being corrected via a patch, which has already been released. However, patching Xbox 360 games is done a little bit differently, and it actually costs money. A lot of money for the developers. So what they're doing is they're just continuing to sell it, but if you have an issue, it's only some copies that are affected. But if you get I don't even know what the problem is, to be honest. I don't know what the problem is, but apparently if you're having any kind of issues, technical issues, with Silent Hill HD Collection for Xbox 360 and you still have your receipt, This is valid for Xbox 360 versions that were purchased on or before August 8th, 2012, with requests for an exchange required to be submitted by October 7th. And you can do this on the official Silent Hill Facebook page, which I'd like to get you the URL for right here. Well, here is the... I believe it's just, facebook.com/Silent Hill, and this is the actual release. This is what they said on there. They said, "Attention Silent Hill fans. If you purchase Silent Hill HD Collection for the Xbox 360 new and from a recognized retailer and still have the original receipt, Please send your receipt to Konami Customer Service for verification and further details on how to exchange your product. This offer is only valid for Silent Hill HD Collection Xbox 360 version games purchased on or before August 8th, 2012. All requests must be made in writing and submitted on or before October 7th, 2012, and is subject to availability. Any inquiries received after this date will not fall under the exchange program. This offer valid for purchases made in North and South America. The patch for Silent Hill Downpour for both Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 is still currently in development and scheduled for release at a later date. So apparently all their Silent Hill games are having some kind of issue, but I haven't seen any actual information about what the issue is with these games. So there you go. If you're looking forward to Assassin's Creed 3, if you're looking to get the PC version, I am sad to say that the PC version of Assassin's Creed 3 is delayed to November. It now has a release date of November 23rd, which is pretty much standard for Ubisoft games for the PC version to come out later. So there you go. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. November 23rd is the European date. Well, North America will actually get it November 20th, a few days earlier. So there you go. All right, so let's see. Moving on. Okay, so I have an image here that may be the Kinect 2, which goes into what I was just talking about with the next Xbox. Apparently, this image has linked Super Day at Twitter has leaked this image out of the body recognition technology being used, with what is currently known only as Kinect 2.0, which will supposedly be integrated with the next Xbox. So I don't know. But you can go on and check that out. Just go to twitter.com/superday, that's DAE. And, I don't know how legit that is, but I figured I'd report on it. Gotta talk about The Last Guardian, because kind of like Final Fantasy Versus 13 before it, there's been the rumors that, because it's been delayed so long and we haven't really seen anything in terms of gameplay or anything in a very long time, if at all. And there's been the rumors that The Last Guardian is going to be canceled. It's been delayed. The person who created the series left Sony. Now it looks like the trademark for The Last Guardian has completely lapsed, which means Sony no longer owns the trademark. And basically, the reason that the trademark was abandoned, so to speak, is because no statement of use or extension request was timely filed after notice allowance was issued, according to USPTO TAR reports. So, there was the whole conjecture. Does this mean that The Last Guardian is dead? Does this mean that it is officially canceled? What's going on? Was this done intentionally? Was it something they weren't aware of? Well, I don't have anything to say about it in terms of conjecture and whatnot, but this is what Sony has to say about it. Sony's official statement on this is the project is still in development, nothing new to report at this time. So it has been said that they do have the ability to get back the trademark. So that is possible. They would basically just have to re-register it. But it's interesting. I don't know. Is it going to continue perhaps under another name? Who knows really what's going on there with The Last Guardian. But there you have it. I want to talk about Dragon Quest X. Dragon Quest X was released in Japan. Now, the news story that I read said 400,000 copies sold. That seems like a lot, but I just want to point out, in the first week, Dragon Quest X sold 400,000 copies. In the first week, the predecessor, Dragon Quest IX, which was on the DS, sold 2.3 million copies, which is much more standard for the Dragon Quest series in Japan. Although it did boost the sales of the Wii, it's just showing that the interest in a Dragon Quest MMO is much lesser than probably what Square Enix was hoping for. And of course, I'll go into the actual sales figures and everything in a little bit. Final news story here, like I said, I don't have a whole lot to talk about this week, is about BioShock Infinite. There have been the rumors about the multiplayer aspects of BioShock Infinite and what's exactly going to happen. Now, this is all rumors. Apparently, Ken Levine, who created BioShock, said, I say that we will experiment with things, But for us, we are never interested in making a multiplayer mode you could just play in some other game. Now, there's been rumors that, because people have been let go and there's been some upheavals and shakeups over at the developer there. So, people are kind of wondering what's going on with the, Irrational Games and BioShock Infinite. And the rumors are ranging from some of the multiplayer being cut to the game is not going to have multiplayer. Now, personally, it's like, oh, no, not that, no. Because honestly, BioShock is a very, very single-player experience, and if it didn't have any multiplayer, I'd be just fine with that. You know what I mean? No big deal. So there you have it. But, yeah, that's it for the news. I'm going to go into, like I said, this is going to be a very short show. I'm sorry it's so short this week. I was planning on having a guest, but, like I said, the guy flaked out at me. But let me bring up the sales figures for this week, and we will end out the show with that. So let's see. So let's talk about the top 10 best-selling games in Japan for the week ending in August 5th, 2012. Dragon Quest X on the Wii sold 384,061 copies. New Super Mario Bros. 2 for the 3DS sold 213,229 copies. Pokemon Black and White version 2 for the DS sold 61,879 copies. I got a mouthful here. Tohoku Daigaku Karei Igaku Kenkyusho Kawashima Ryutu Kyoju Kanshu Mono Sugoku no Kitaru 5 Funken no Onai Training. That's on the 3DS and it sold 30,998 copies. Just Dance Wii 2 on the Wii sold 29,359 copies. All Kamen Rider Generation 2 on the DS sold 20,498 copies. Kirby's Dream Collection Special Edition on the Wii, that sold 19,208 copies. Persona 4 Arena on PlayStation 3 sold 18,773 copies. Digimon World Redigitize on PlayStation Portable sold 17,045 copies. And Taiko no Tatsujin Chibi Dragon no Fushigi na Orb, that's on the 3DS, and it sold 14,985 copies. Over in Europe, the top-selling game was London 2012, the official video game of the Olympic Games. That sold on Xbox 360. It sold 54,458 copies. The same game's at number 2 on the PlayStation 3. That sold 47,321 copies. Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games on the Wii sold 21,775 copies. Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS sold 20,213 copies. Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance on the 3DS sold 18,753 copies. Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS sold 17,630 copies. Diablo 3 on PC sold 17,247 copies. Batman Arkham City on the PlayStation 3 sold 17,085 copies. Lego Batman 2 DC Superheroes on the Xbox 360 sold 15,047 copies. And The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on PlayStation 3 sold 13,511 copies. In America, the top-selling game was Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance. That sold 201,369 copies. NCAA Football 13 on the Xbox 360 sold 28,567 copies. The same game, NCAA Football 13 on PlayStation 3, sold 22,553 copies. MLB 12 The Show on PlayStation 3 sold 18,156 copies. Batman Arkham City on Xbox 360 sold 16,625 copies. Wii Sports on the Wii sold 16,128 copies. Battlefield 3 on PlayStation 3 sold 14,604 copies. Batman Arkham City on PlayStation 3 sold 14,234 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on the Xbox 360 sold 14,159 copies. And Lego Batman 2 DC Superheroes on the Wii sold 13,728 copies. So globally, the top 10 best-selling games: Dragon Quest X, followed by Kingdom Hearts 3D, followed by New Super Mario Bros. 2, followed by the Olympics game, first for Xbox 360, then for PS3, followed by Pokemon Black and White 2, Batman Arkham City for PS3, Mario Kart 7, Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games, and then Super Mario 3D Land. For hardware, in Japan, the top-selling console was the 3DS, which moved 122,934 units. The Wii moved 42,558 units. The PlayStation 3, 14,288 88 units. The PlayStation Portable, 11,573 units. The PlayStation Vita, 8,436 units. The DS, 866 units. And the Xbox 360, 770 units. In Europe, the top-selling console was also the 3DS, 71,249 units moved there. PlayStation 3 moved 52,373 units. The Xbox 360 moved 29,165 units. The Wii moved 19,250 units. The PlayStation Portable moved 14,253 units. The PlayStation Vita moved 14,176 units, and the DS moved 8,988 units. And in America, the top-selling console was the Xbox 360, which moved 49,825 units, followed by the 3DS, which moved 47,158 units. The PlayStation Portable moved 37,271 units. The Wii moved 18,482 units. The DS moved 17,790 units. The PlayStation Vita moved 12,722 units, and the PlayStation Portable moved 2,367 units, meaning that globally, the 3DS came out the big winner, followed by PlayStation 3, Wii, Xbox 360, PlayStation Portable, the Vita, and then the DS. So there you have it. So that's pretty much the show. I did want to talk very briefly about, just to mention Kazara Studios, because we are indeed going to be having some major announcements coming out soon from Kazara Studios regarding Chronicles of the Dark Lord and whatnot. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye. I'll talk about it on my channel, of course, when I can. But you might want to go over to youtube.com/Kazara Studios to check that out, and or you can go to facebook.com/Kazara Studios and facebook.com/NecroVMX, and announcements will always be made there very quickly. So that'll be the show for this week. If you want to be on the show as a guest, let me know. Add me on Skype, and we'll set up a time and date to do it, and there you go. So VMX out. We'll see you next week.